All right, I'm gonna let it rip if you're good.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All righty, so we're get started here. Thanks to everybody for hopping on this recap. I would imagine if you're here, you probably were either at Directions or wondering what was going on at Directions. So hopefully Ben and I here can take you through what's been going on. Hey there, Ben. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me today, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, you're sort of my go-to guy for this sort of stuff because I see you chatting with everybody in the world whenever we're done at these conferences. So I think it's good to get you on and kind of get what the word on the street is. It seems like I know you talked about how many people you had on your list to follow up. So I guess general zoom out. How was your directions this year generally? You get everything you wanted? Do you meet everybody on your list? I don't know. General impressions. You tell me.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, the first thing they shared in one of the general sessions was just how many people they had there and how it was the
Yeah.
biggest ever in terms of attendance, right? And I think based on when it was booked versus how many people showed up, it was a little tight, right? Because there were so many people there. So excited to see that it's continuously growing. And our list continues to grow of the people that we meet and the people that we're working with. So I mean, that's what I get most out of it, I would say, is just
Yep.
seeing people, because we only get a couple times a year to all get together and do that kind of stuff. So it's always good to see the people that we're working with on a day-to-day basis. So always love to do that. And then of course all the new things that they roll out and show you from a
Yeah.
Microsoft standpoint, since they're I think almost half or just shy of half, something like that. I can't remember what the stat was, of the speakers were from uh, Microsoft, right? So
Yeah,
a
it
lot
was
of
like
those
80
keynotes.
plus is what I saw. There were more than 80 people from Microsoft there, which is great. Like it
Yeah.
does feel like the
So
one time of the year where you get direct interaction with Microsoft. At least for ISVs like us. I bet the partners get a little more than we do, but I might be wrong on that. So yeah, just set the stage a little bit. My name's Kevin. If you're on this webinar, you probably know who I am. I'm over at Fidesic, head of product over there. And then Ben, I don't know what you call your title nowadays at ERP Connect Consulting, but you're kind of the same guy. You're the do everything that falls on your plate sort of guy. I'm not sure what your actual title is nowadays.
yeah, I do a little bit of everything. I think it says
Yeah.
president on my LinkedIn, but started the company about 3 years ago now. And we've been growing our team out with additional developers and product managers and things like that. So I kind of stay in tune with all of it, right?
Yep.
Besides the heavy coding piece, they don't let me touch that. But everything else, I like to stay involved. And as you know from the conferences, right, a lot of it is channel management, partner management, and know product knowledge and things like that, right? Because my
Yep.
approach is always educating people on what we do rather than trying to sell it. If we educate them and they find that that's a need that they have, they'll likely tune in to what we've got to offer and hopefully subscribe to something that we have, right? But that's kind of my mentality and my focus. But again, directions is a great way to get that
Yeah.
message out.
Yep, it's always easier to deliver that message in person. It always feels kind of like a marketing ploy when you're like, "We're just trying to help" on LinkedIn or whatever. But when you're actually having a conversation with somebody, it feels like it actually resonates and lands a lot better.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
our agenda today, we're gonna try to keep it short, probably looking at about a half hour. So just top line headlines, things like basically the results from the daily keynote sessions, some individual takeaways from like actual sessions that I attended and Ben attended, and then general takeaways where we're going from here, kind of what's up next, I would say. So obviously the theme for I don't know, the past 12 months has been AI in pretty much every conversation that you have. Every keynote I've attended in the past year has leaned in pretty heavily into AI. I don't think that's any secret on that. But I don't know, it does feel like we're getting closer to that tipping point where there's actually some use cases that make sense in the real world and are actually more effective. So I don't know if you have any notes on the specific things they talked about in regards to Copilot. I think I've got a next slide about Copilot specifically, but yeah, what were your top news on Copilot and general integration of AI through the stack? What were the things that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean it's all they've been talking about for the last 6 months for sure. Definitely, probably even last 12 months, like you mentioned. But that was the
Yeah,
hot topic of the conference, and they showed some things, right? And there's I think at the beginning people were confused about like what it was, right? So I think they
Mhm.
helped clear that up in terms of like the Copilot piece for all of your Office suite, right? So there's that piece for the Microsoft 365 stack, and then there's also Copilot for things like Business Central embedded in version 24 that I see you have up there, and then
Yep.
also for the CRM or CE tool that Dynamics, under that Dynamics umbrella as well. So a few different things there. I was actually using the like Copilot for Microsoft 365
Mhm.
piece this morning just to kind of play around with it. You can use it in Word documents and PowerPoints and things to help formatting or clean things up or generate some photos on a slide or something like that. So, in my opinion, from everything we saw between that and what Business Central has, I think there's still a lot more to come. I personally think it's
Yeah.
still kind of primitive right now. Everyone presenting would probably say the opposite because like this is the best thing in the world. And I think if you know how to use it right now, it's awesome and it can help save you time, but it's not eliminating jobs and replacing people
Yeah.
in the office, right? Like even with the analyze view, that came out in V23, I believe. And in
Mhm.
my opinion, it was kind of hard to use for end users, right? Like it was kind of like a pivot table in Excel, but it was kind of tedious and you had to know where to go. With Copilot now, I can in natural language type in, I'm on my customer ledger entries and I can say,
Mhm.
create me a view of all my customer invoices and include, these three dimensions and total it and give me a column for the dates when I drill down, right? And
Yeah.
again, it works. But even with that, I found if you don't use the right words or tell it exactly what to do yet, it's still it still might not return exactly what you're looking for. And then after it returns it, the nice thing is it'll say, do you accept this answer or do you have more criteria?
Mhm.
Right? And it's like, no, add another column, this, that, or the other. So I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now, which makes me really excited. But
Mhm.
then because of all the buzz, you get every client asking about it, and it's like, this isn't like you can't just type in like, okay, go collect my money from all my customers, and it like magically is gonna go reach out to all your customers, and your customers are magically gonna pay you, and things like that, right? I
They
know
do
there's
kind of
a
make it seem like that now. Yeah, that we're getting closer to that. I think that's still a ways off for sure.
Yeah. And that's just kind of like bringing clients back down to earth and on some things, right? Because they see the marketing buzz, which again, I love it. It's where everything's
Yeah.
headed, but I'm a realist, so I like to be real with people. And it's just like, hey guys, and they're like, well, if you're not going to help us with this, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, it's like, okay, go, you can have somebody else help you with it because I'm
Yep.
telling you what it does. And somebody else can't make it magically do that, right?
And I
But
do get why Microsoft is so all in on all their presentations on this stuff. It's not just to like capitalize on the buzz. It does really feel like to me that this like space, like the dynamics generally or F&O and BC, like, the whole Microsoft ERP stack, it's in a position to capitalize on this stuff like no other platform can. Like they have Copilot already. They have, their giant Azure framework that you can just sort of expand this stuff. They have their stake in Chat GPT, which I think is sort of the secret backend on a lot of this stuff, or maybe
yeah,
not so secret, I guess. But
yeah,
it just feels like, I don't know. It's one of the reasons I'm excited to be in this particular space is it feels like the connectivity of everything really is the standout feature, and like the ability to connect AI tools into this is going to become more and more important as time goes on. And I feel like a lot of the other like, ERP platforms out there are going to struggle to compete. It feels like Microsoft kind of has a secret sauce here that is going to be extremely hard for other people to replicate, which is
yeah.
why I like one of these things and hearing this news because it feels like the future is might not be here yet, but if they keep going this direction, it's going to be extremely hard to make a case for any other ERP platform out there, much less the entire dynamic stack. So, and I think, from my perspective, that's why they're going so hard on this. They know they have a unique advantage here,
Oh
and
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
it's going to keep getting more unique as time goes on. And I think you're right. It's always interesting the disconnect on like why aren't these tools working quite as well as I would expect? I'm sure you're like me and you're using all the other large language model bots out there, not just Copilot. And it does seem like those are really good at like auto correcting your typos and understanding what you mean, even if you're not perfect on it. It feels like that hasn't like migrated all the way to Copilot yet. So I'm excited for when
Yeah.
that happens, because I feel like that's going to be the real game changer on it.
But I feel like it's rolling it out right as well, right? Like I know some
Yep.
people are like, oh, you can just automate your entire support function, just throw this bot in there and it's going to do all of it. And I was trying to rent a car for the upcoming DynamicsCon conference that we're going to.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's in like 2 weeks now. It's coming up quick, but I was online this morning and again, like I had a question because I think I had like some discount code from the past that I was trying to use, and
Hmm.
like it was expired. So I was like, I couldn't find a phone number, so I'm just typing with the bot and I'm explaining my situation, and they're like, "Do you mean this?" And I'm like,
No.
"No, I mean what I just typed in." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Do you mean this?" Like, no. Okay. Would you like to restart? No, I don't want to restart. No.
No, not
So
at
it's like,
all.
like again, if you just throw something in there and I could tell it was, it was again very primitive,
Untrained,
and very
unoptimized.
untrained. It's like
Yeah,
at what point do people give up, right? Because the world we
that
live
is
in
the
today,
risk here.
everything's so easy, right? And we track this from, somebody downloads something of ours from app source and then
Hmm.
they go into a lead journey of, hey, you downloaded, here are the next steps. Okay, you're 15 days in. Okay, now you're 30 days in, your trial's up. Are you ready to buy, right? And it's
Yep.
the we see the apps that we have the most success with are the ones that are the easiest to install and the easiest time up. Like our financial dashboard takes 15 to 30 minutes max for most clients. Some take an hour if they really want to dig into it, but you can plug it in and 80% of it just already works with no
Yep.
configuration. So again, going back to the AI example here,
Uh-huh.
I I ended up just basically, well, they actually probably benefited it from it because I just ended up giving up and just paying for it because I was like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to find this discount code. So they made more money today because their bot didn't work, but other
Not always
people
going to be
might,
the case.
yeah,
Eventually, yeah,
other
they're going to
people might
lose
just
out.
abandon it and go to another site,
Yeah.
right? I just have too much to manage, so it's just like I'm not gonna go rent a car on another site. I'm just gonna go with my app,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not a big deal. It's like 20
e-
bucks, but
Exactly.
but
So
yeah,
yeah,
you don't want to lose
we'll get to
business.
those app source optimizations. That was part of the thing that I have on here that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you're in that a lot.
Yeah.
Wrapping up just sort of general news and things. The environment transfer is something else that I don't. Did they just announce that, or is that something that has been around? And
So
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
when this came out. It was definitely recent.
Yeah, because I don't remember this being a thing.
They announced it for the first time at Directions, and I actually about a week before Directions, a client came to me with this exact use case, and I had read
Hmm.
an article probably a month ago. So I'm guessing it came out like 3 to 4 weeks ago, or like
Yep.
maybe 3 to 4 weeks before Directions, something like that, because I saw some blog articles from other MVPs and stuff. There's some MVPs that I was connected with. I read through them, some trusted sources that I follow, and I thought this was really cool. And I had a client that basically needed this, and the old way of doing things or doing this, you had to contact Microsoft and spend
Yeah.
a lot of time, and you're probably charging the client for that, like things like that. So with this, I told the client, I said, hey, I've never used this before. I read a
Uh-huh.
blog article on it. I'm pretty good at following instructions. If you're okay with me giving it a shot, we can give it a shot. And again, we were like, you have to be a global admin, so the client had to be on the phone with me, and
Yep.
it was like Friday night or something. So just nothing better to do, right? Than transferring environments. But we did it, and it worked. It worked great. So I think it is new, but it's a huge time saver and a lot of different use cases. I think, right? From one, in this case, somebody's buying or selling a company, we had to move like the company we
Yeah.
bought to the company we're in. But from a partner standpoint, they mentioned, you could have like a cookie cutter production instance, copy it
Hmm.
down to a sandbox, and then transfer that sandbox over to your client, and then they have like a prepackaged thing to start which I thought was pretty cool. So
Yeah,
I at
I'm really
least,
curious about that. That's
yeah,
I feel like there's
I mean,
tons of there's tons of applications for that, just beyond like a client actually needs to move, like taking copies for testing if you need like an exact client copy of a database with your own, like to like see their data and how everything functions. That like I don't
yeah.
know, there's lots of options in here that I think That's huge. I didn't know that was a thing until very recently.
Well, I think it's moving more from like, uh, I like this because for clients, they don't ever want to pay like a ton of hours to do something that's just like following instructions, right? They want it to be easy. And I think a lot of things like this are making it easier so that we like don't need to spend an unnecessary, 20, 30 hours to do something like this. We can just
Yep.
click a few buttons and it works for the more common things. And I always like to, tell people too, if they're, uh, like I'm excited about the future for all the AI stuff and everything that Business Central is doing, but it's like this is the worst that it's ever going to be, right? Tomorrow it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be better, next month it's going to be better, 6 months from now it's going to be better, like, and a year ago it was worse than it is today, right?
For
So
sure.
like if it's this good today and this is the worst it's ever going to be, like I would say that's pretty solid, right?
And I think
But there's
that's
still a lot of room
evident.
to go.
Yeah, and that's evident in this other bullet point that we have here is there's tons of momentum in this. I remember you and I talking about this stuff like 2, 3 years ago, and BC was such a different beast back then. It really felt like not everything was sorted. And like you said, it was, it's the best it's ever been. But I feel like the progress in the past 2 to 3 years has really been kind of crazy. And it's reflected in these sort of conferences. People are showing up in droves. They're going to need a bigger venue next year. I have a feeling on this, and feels like a good spot to be.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think like just from the amount of people from past conferences to this, and I know Directions is obviously a smaller, more tight knit conference than
Yep.
Community Summit, but just when there's only partners and ISVs and Microsoft there, to have such a big showing, and we
It's
need
huge.
more people um, in the space, right? Because I think that they kept saying like, okay, well, Microsoft doesn't benefit from people just jumping around from firm to firm, right? Because it's still the same
Yep.
pool of work. We need more new people in the space. So I think that's great that they're doing a lot of things to upskill people, and some companies will hire straight out of college and train them up. Others will only hire experienced, and some do a mix of both. But
Yep.
no matter what you do, or hire from industry, right? And you've never done consulting before, any of those, everybody could use a little bit of upskilling, right? There's always more to learn.
Yep. That was another thing that we mentioned. I think that was probably the youngest any Microsoft conference I've been to has been as well, which also, youth isn't everything, but it certainly adds to the buzz when the mean age in the channel goes down a little bit. It's good to see the younger generations excited too, which leads in pretty nicely to one of the sessions I went to. I guess this is a consolidation of several marketing sessions I went to, all under the vague umbrella of a theme of millennials are way more important in the buying process than people assume at this point, which kind of charts with everything that I've encountered. But the one data point on it is at this point in like, SMB space, that 40% of the decision makers that are actually making buying decisions are already millennials. And that's the single largest group because there's still some boomers hanging on. There's some Gen X and there's some Gen Z making decisions too. So it is the single largest purchaser decision demographic that exists in this channel currently. And that's another reason why I think Microsoft is doing all of the things that they do around BC to make everything as self-service, as click to set up, as do follow this guide and you can just do everything yourself to some degree. And that's why they're pushing all the ISVs to go that direction too, is that's what millennials want. And Ben, I know you're proof of that too. You might be a little young to technically be a millennial. I'm not sure where the cutoff is exactly, but I know
Yeah,
you're a
I was just trying.
self-start person,
I was
right?
just I was just trying to look it up. Like it looks like it's between 30 30 and like 45. So yeah, just towards the
Yeah.
bottom portion of that. But I think with that piece, right, like everybody in our age group
Hmm.
grew up on this kind of stuff, right? Like, we were in high school and college and early on in our careers when, the iPhone and that kind of thing was coming out, right? So
Yep.
we're just used to opening the box and it just works, right?
Yep.
Whereas that wasn't true of, like other demographics like baby boomers and that kind of thing, where,
Hmm.
that was the kind of the birth of the computer and, modern computing and things like that, and you had to read the user manual, and it
And you
was
had to
not
contact
plug-in.
somebody. Yeah.
You had to contact somebody and you had to read, right? So, um, not saying one's better than the other. I almost prefer the, having to actually go through it and learn about it sometimes, because I think sometimes when it is just, click and
Yep.
go, one, you don't know everything, right? Like,
Hmm.
I go on my iPhone, I probably don't know half of what my iPhone can do because it's so easy to use that I never explore more, right? Um, Whereas if you go through, and we sell apps as well, and like I said,
Yep.
with a financial dashboard or something, 80% of it already works. Okay, well, if somebody goes in and plugs it in and they never read the manual or they never call us, they're only going to get that 80%, right? Because they
Yep.
never went further, but the 80% worked. But what they might not know, because they didn't go over anything, is that that extra 20% can really add a lot of value, because they're
Hmm.
configuration elements to the app that really give it some more horsepower, right? So,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, again, I think
And
the
that's kind of on us at a certain point, right? As app developers, it's like, how do we make that last 20% as frictionless as possible? And that
yeah,
was one of the huge discussion points on all of this is like, if it doesn't feel self-service, you can go set it up and try it out. You're going to lose a huge majority of your like younger, AKA millennial buyers right out of the gate. We just had a developer that we put in charge of like shopping for a new like product that we needed to add in or whatever, right? And he's on the younger side, and spoiler, like the product he picked, the reason he picked it is because they had a really good set yourself up trial and actually use it. Is it the best product that's available? I'm not entirely sure, but it was the one that let us test it for free and the one that let us like actually see that it works in reality without having to like go through some big process. And it's like that's just like a little microcosm for like how so many of these people are going to be shopping. It's like, okay, there's 10 solutions to this one problem. One of them I can just set up and see it work. Like it's pretty obvious the one that you're going to pick. And that self-service is like going to become more and more important to this as time goes on, I think.
yeah,
Especially in our world, Ben, where they they add on products. If people can't try it and people can't see it work, somebody's going to build an app that does that, and then we'll lose out to them in the longer term. I have a feeling.
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, too, with that buying decision piece, right? I think it's not only that they're making the decisions that it has to be easy, but the acceleration at which decisions are made, right? There's not these,
Yep.
I mean, there probably still are a lot of like the longer term assessments and like system selections and things like that. But,
Yep.
if this is the way that it's going, those decisions will also be able to be made much quicker. And I know Microsoft's doing a lot with kind of, more rapid deployments of Business
Hmm.
Central, so that you can get a trial of Business Central and you can kind of self implement. Like, I always think, if you're going to self implement, still have an advisor who knows
Oh yeah,
what
for
they're
sure.
doing. And I've served this role for people, right? People call me, hey, I want to self implement, but can I just call you a couple hours a week? Yeah, sure. Like,
Yeah.
we'll just do it on a T&M basis and it's all good. But then, when they get stuck, they have somebody they can ask questions to that they trust, right? And I think that's what's important, because there are definitely things in Business Central where you're going down,
Hmm.
and if you make a mistake early on with, like, something as
Yeah.
simple as a posting group, now everything's getting posted with the wrong accounts, and you're like, okay, well, I'm buying items and I'm selling items, and it's like, well, your sales is going to an asset account and your expenses are going to this equity account because you didn't set
Hmm.
anything up right. Like, again, have somebody spot checking it, things like that. But even that could be improved with something like Copilot, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
here,
the super power up, right? If there is
yeah,
that copilot that you can lean on to get you through those sorts of things, that could be
yeah,
hugely
like
different.
like that account looks wrong. I would recommend using this account, and like just accounting standardization too, of like even something as simple as a chart of accounts, right? Like, I've
Yeah.
seen people where their revenue accounts are in the 3,000 range, and it just like gives me a headache because you're so used to it being in the 4,000 range or 40,000 range. It's just like
Yeah.
tough to build reports and comprehend sometimes, just from,
Yeah.
again, an industry standardization standpoint.
True. Yeah, and I think there's a difference between like full self-service and like I just want to see it work before I talk to somebody and get guidance. Like like it depends on how complicated something is, but I think even in complex setups and product ads and all of this, you still want to like get over that initial hurdle and be reasonably confident that it does what you think it's going to do, even if that's not the setup and you still have to like go back and contact somebody to complete it. I feel like you got to be able to like kind of test the waters a little bit and make it feel like it works.
Yeah, I can't give any spoilers, but we've been working with a couple partners on kind of this strategy in terms of
Yeah.
making it easier to do exactly that. So yeah, I'm
Nice.
sure in the next, I mean, things will start to roll out in the next couple months, but everything takes time to gain some legs under it. So by next
Yep.
directions, for sure, I think if I had to bet on what one of the keynotes is next directions, I would probably say these rapidly deployed business central implementations is going to be one of them. So if you want to place
Yeah.
a side bet on it, Kevin, we can do it offline.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you a LinkedIn for the inside dirt before I place that bet. But yeah,
All right,
I'm interested.
sounds good.
So the other things that were taught are brought up in pretty much every marketing channel session that I was in, and this all kind of relates to the fact that millennials are the buyers generally. But at the end of the day, like people aren't that different in what they're looking for in terms of like marketing. And number one thing is always going to be social proof. Can you prove to somebody that's similar to me used this and enjoyed it and liked it? And then the easiest way to do that is short form video content. If you can have a person saying that you did a good job, that's sort of marketing gold forever. And that's definitely an angle that I think we need to, at least over at Fidesic, we're going to try to lean in on way more. Like we have people that'll say nice things about us while we're on Zoom calls with them. But that's only one step removed from turning that into a little snippet that can be shared and presented and posted on an app source listing. Like why not have a short form video of somebody saying that they like your product and they think it does a good job? It's just going to drive more confidence, more social proof. And I think those are the two gold standard items in terms of marketing. If you can do those two things at once, it's from what I've heard, goes a long, long way. I'm not sure if you guys have, I guess I haven't been shopping for your products on that. I'm not sure if you've done a ton of the customer testimonial type stuff at this point.
We've got a lot of them on AppSource, just like people
Mm-hmm.
again writing
Reviews.
written reviews.
Yep.
We have two different like short form video contents. One came one it was on like a larger podcast and I clipped it, right? And I asked
Nice.
the folks that
Yep.
did the podcast, I'm like, hey, I heard in your podcast they were talking about ISV products that they like, and I was listening to it like I normally do for theirs, and our name came up, pleasant to my surprise.
Yep.
I didn't ask for it, and they didn't even tell me. I was like, if you're gonna do it, like at least tell me so I can take a
Yeah.
look at it. It would encourage me to view it even more closely. But I heard our
Yep.
name pop up, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I said, hey, can you send me the raw footage, and can I clip that 2 minutes out of it and throw it on our YouTube
Yep.
channel? And they said, yeah, no problem. So it's just stuff like that. I'm looking to
Exactly.
schedule another one here. I don't know if it'll be next week before Dynamics Con Live or a couple weeks after, but somebody again that I work with very closely said, I want to tell the world about this, and they had reached out to me. Can I do a video? And I was like, yeah, let's absolutely do it. We're going to talk about ROI
Mm-hmm.
and how quickly we can get our tool set up, and how insignificant the cost is, and how much ROI you
Mm-hmm.
can get off of that. So some cool stuff for sure, but that's always kind of like you're looking for a lawn care company, right? Like they all look the same online. It's
They
like
do.
5 stars, 4.5 stars. We've got mowers, we got weed whackers. Like, okay, like there's nothing differentiating any of these companies online. But if one of my friends told me, hey, this guy mows my lawn and he's absolutely fantastic,
You
fantastic, he
wouldn't
shows up
even
on
think
time
about it,
and he
right?
pays
You
well,
wouldn't
I'm not
even
even going to
question it.
look. I'm not even going to look for anybody else, right? And it's the same with this. If somebody says, Ben or Kevin's apps are great, Ben answers the phone when you call him,
Good
he'll
work.
answer your emails pretty quickly, and his solutions are pretty rock solid. It's like, okay, great. Like I don't
Yep.
need to ask any further questions, right? And I think that wasn't talked about in the buying decision, but I think that's an even greater piece of it, right? Which
Yeah.
I don't think changes over any generation, right?
Nope.
Our parents, grandparents, and our children's generation will be the same. People are always going to trust people that give them recommendations, right? If I trust you and you recommend somebody,
Yep.
I'm going to trust you until you screw me over, and then I'm not going to trust you anymore. That's kind of how it works, right? You screw up
Yeah.
once, your trust goes away, but you have that trust indefinitely until don't have it anymore. It's kind of the easiest way to say it.
It's a very similar situation to hiring people, right? You don't want to hire
Oh
somebody's
yeah,
best friend, but if somebody has a recommendation, it's like, oh yeah, I worked with them once and they were great. That's like the gold standard, right? They immediately shoot to the top of your list
yeah.
versus 10,000 Indeed resumes. Like, oh yeah, this person said they're pretty good. I'll take that
Yeah.
chance. Let's go.
And every resume looks the same, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I've got 5 years of experience. I got 10 years of experience. I got 15 years of experience. I do
Everybody does.
AL coding. Like, yeah, I went to this university. I have these skills. It's like, all right, they all look the same. And somebody goes, oh yeah, that guy was a consultant on an implementation we did, and we went live on time. It was on budget, and he was friendly to work with.
Sold.
Hired.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
So
yep.
that's interesting
Easy.
framework. Get hired by people in the app marketplace. Like, what do you do to get hired?
Yeah.
So I was looking through my notes on this. We were just talking about the screenshot of it yesterday. I don't think this is necessarily in order of importance. These are just the 7 key things that matter in terms of getting your app source listing optimized. So that's what I want to talk to you about. We've got this list of things. What's your opinion on what actually matter the most to get you up that page rank? Because I know I have what I think is the most important things, but I'm curious what your impression is.
I mean, yeah, I've got what I think, and then I look at lists like this, and I think what I think doesn't matter because it doesn't align with what I see on
Yeah,
this
exactly.
the
Well, I'm not
screen,
sure this
right?
is
Like
supposed to be in order.
in order,
I'm not
yeah.
certain that's the case. This is
Um,
just the things that matter.
yeah. So obviously, behind the scenes in the in App Source, I can see all the statistics of how many views we get on each app, like per listing. I
Hmm.
can see how many views we get per each app, how many people that viewed clicked a link, how many people that viewed downloaded
Yep.
it into their sandbox or production environment, and then where physically, geographically these people are downloading it from, and some other
Yep.
demographic items that you can get there. Where when I look at when I look at the apps that we sell on AppSource, again, we're still trying to get on page 1. I don't know what the secret formula is to get there. We got a few apps on page 2, which again, you'd think in order, your most popular app would be the first one listed, even if it's only on page 2, right? But
Yep. Doesn't seem
the
to be the
first,
case though.
if you're scrolling through, the first app that you see of ours is we have 28 apps on AppSource. So that one is probably number 5 in terms of clicks. It's 5 in terms of downloads. It only has like 2 or 3 reviews. Um,
Hmm.
but it's the first one they see. So maybe the title's good. The publisher name's the same on all of them, so that doesn't matter for me.
Yep.
So on that one, maybe my title's good, or my headline's good, or my categories are good. But it seems that those things, which maybe this list is in order, because that would outweigh popularity and solution
It's
rating, right? Which, in my opinion, 4 and 6 there, to me as a buyer, those are the most important. I don't care about
Yeah,
the
I
title
would
or the
think so too.
publisher
Yeah,
name.
that's all
Like
I would be looking at. But maybe but
you're
again,
on,
we're millennial
yeah,
brain, right? Amazon.
right.
Like, I don't buy
Amazon,
anything that's less than 4.7. Like, why would you ever buy that? It's probably a piece of garbage. So it's
yeah.
just, but
I sort by 5.5 stars or greater, and number of reviews top to bottom, because even if it's a 5 star,
yep,
only one person might have bought it. So it's like this has
yep,
a 4.7 and 7,000 people have bought it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna buy that one, right?
It's probably like a floor, right? If you are above a certain threshold on this that like passes the smell test, it might not be important. But if you're rocking a 3.2, like good luck. You're never gonna move up the ranks. I wonder if that's kind of how it works.
Look on the first page. There's one that has a 3 point something, and it's on the first page, and it has
So weird.
a handful of reviews. But there's others on the first page that have 1 or 2 reviews. So again,
Yep.
why is it there? But again,
It,
every name on that first page you're probably going to recognize.
yep.
Um,
It,
and
in
they're all
my
ISPs that have been
experience,
around a long time.
yeah, in my experience, it does chart that title is the most important thing. We've been playing around with it, tweaking that, and just seeing how things go. And it's a matter of aligning your title to make it what people are searching for. Like, what is when you decide you want to search for something, what are you searching for? And the closer your title is to whatever that key phrase is, seems to be the thing that drives traffic. And if you can just like get those two things in alignment, what people are actually looking for and the title, that alone has had the biggest impact on our listings. It's been more important than pretty much everything else, which I think is interesting, that you just gotta, sort of wordsmith the name that finds the right people.
Yeah, maybe Copilot can tell us what the most optimized title publisher name, headline, and description and keyword can be, right?
It's
Maybe
honestly
it's
not a
just,
bad idea. It might be the same robot on the other side doing the sorting. So ask
that's
the
what I mean.
robot how to be
The
successful.
person answering the question, the person asking the
Yeah.
question now is the same person answering the question. So maybe you can get right to the
Yep.
source. Um,
So the other
but
things that I'm not sure how heavily you guys are doing either that I think is smart. Easy way to boost your views on these things is to just make sure that you're linking to it from your own personal marketing site, and you're linking to it from your like content that you're posting on other marketing platforms or LinkedIn or whatever, but actually link to the app source listings themselves, because that'll drive traffic, and traffic drives popularity, which can then obviously contribute to bumping you up those rankings. That wasn't something that we've really done much on, but it does pass. From my perspective, it seems like something that would work, so we're definitely going to lean into that a bit more.
yeah, we do that on our website. Everything's linked back.
Yep.
Again, I'm bad about it, but I need to write more blog posts. Just
Yep.
in general, we do a lot of video. I mean, most of what I like to do is videos, so you'll see a lot of videos on our YouTube channel and things like that. That's where
Yep.
most of our content is, but I know you can embed those in a blog or something like that. So uh, definitely, I mean, again, anything SEO related is always going to help you pop to the top. But when I find the magic bullet to get on page one with all of our apps, and I think there's probably like 30 or 40 apps on the page. So
Yep.
when all of those are just ours, I'll let you know. But until then, I still have to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I think, just from like a general listing perspective, is think about what KPIs the person shopping cares about, and just try to get some data on that and put it right there. If your job is based on a certain KPI and you find an app that speaks to it directly, it's a pretty compelling uh think pretty compelling sales pitch to them. And just being super generous with the things that you're providing. Reciprocity, right? If you provide people lots of resources and lots of things, maybe they'll provide you a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to try it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other session I went to that I thought was interesting and has huge potential for people like us specifically is the page scripting for UAT in BC. Um, it's in beta technically, but it really felt like it could totally test our app end to end, like as it exists in its current state, which is pretty amazing. I've assigned this to one of our developers to go through and build all this, so we'll actually have it and can do our testing in a fully automated way, which for me sounds great. I'm excited to see where this goes. It's got conditional steps where it'll like check the value of something in BC. If it's not 500 and it's supposed to be, it'll like pause the script and let you know that it errored out. Um, it, like I said, still in beta, got a ways to go, I'm sure, but just in the demo I saw, I think it's fully capable for pretty much anything I would want it for. There's obviously some minor improvements that they could add in, but I think getting it started and setting up and using it now is on my top of the list. Is anytime you can save UAT steps and save testing to get quicker rollouts of things is always a good thing. I don't know if you went to that session. I don't think I saw you there.
No, I didn't, but I've seen some stuff about this online as well, and I've
Yeah.
seen some examples. Again, I haven't played with it too much, but it looks promising. So excited to, there's only so much you can do in a day. So still new
Yeah.
V24 features I haven't even touched yet, which is great. That's all. There's always more, right? So
Yep. Well,
always more to learn.
I'll give you a report back once we actually dig into it and try it out and see how that goes.
Sweet, sounds good.
So this is pretty quick. Basically, there were some things some murmurs I heard around and some vague references during the keynotes that relate to ISVs and how that relates to Copilot specifically. One is like you can add Copilot directly to your ISV offering. Still no details on that, but it's a pretty cool thing. Get in that Copilot space directly. And then the other thing that I've heard through talking to people, and I think was also vaguely referenced in one of the keynotes, is the ability to talk to Copilot and ask for actual apps on App Source or ISV recommendations. And it would be informed enough, gives you some ability to actually have Copilot recommend whatever offering you've got, which I think is interesting. And I'm going to keep my ear to the ground on that because I do want to know more and more about it. It seems like if people are talking to Copilot about everything, then you got to make sure your app or your offering is there as well, because that's probably who they're going to ask first, as opposed to just going and Googling like it's been for 20 years. So,
Yeah, and I think it's cool because they can already pull stuff offline as well,
yep.
right? Like I was just messing around with it this morning, like I said, and I was putting some of our asking it questions about ourselves or saying, hey, like write up a quick description for this, and all I said was ERP Connect or the Business Central Toolbox, and it was like,
Yep.
you know, whether what it said was true or not, like it was still pretty good. I think they fabricated a few things about our company, which I had to delete, but again, that's why it's called Copilot, right? It gives you kind of, for me, it helps with writer's block, right? Like I've never been a good
Yep.
writer, so it helps get 70% of your thoughts kind of like in that framework, and then you're like, oh yeah, like I don't even know what this word means, so I'm going to take that word out of here and I'll use a synonym. And again, like it was I think it said like ERP Connect is the #1 provider of enterprise resource planning software. I'm like, I mean, I
Like,
appreciate it, but
hell
we're
yeah,
probably not.
bro. Let's go.
We're probably not #1, but Copilot thinks we are. So if somebody else is looking at it and says something, they'll say they're the #1 provider
Yeah.
of, and then we might get some calls. So I'll take it, but I'll have to
This is
reset
definitely
expectations pretty fast.
yeah, this has been a back burner idea for me for a long time, and I'm not exactly sure what to do with it, but we are approaching a world where the first thing you do when you want a new piece of software is you go talk to insert chatbot here
Yeah.
and ask what you should do. And all of them are claiming that there's no like pay to win model that exists like Google has, right? Like, oh, we got to get our Google ads in order or whatever the case may be. It used to be how it used to work. And I don't know how this paradigm is going to shake out. I'm not sure anybody does, but I don't think we're very far away from that being the first step for your average person of, oh, I need a report. I need a report dashboard for BC. I'm just going to ask Copilot what I should do. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel very far fetched. That's going to be the norm very, very soon. And I'm not sure anybody knows what that means yet. So that's going to be extremely interesting to see how all this shakes out.
Yeah, I know right now it's not, but again, anytime there's money involved, I wouldn't be surprised if like, I think it would be unfortunate if it did go that way, but I don't see it over time not being that way. It's like with everything, right? Like at first,
Yep.
at first when Facebook came out, everybody's using it and it was free. I mean, it's still free, but now they have paid things, or they've got
Oh, it's
ads,
not
right?
free.
Like, yeah, like at the beginning of, I look at like Facebook and Instagram as an example. It was
Yep.
awesome because the only things on it were what your friends were posting, pictures, what your friends are doing and stuff like that. And now it's every other thing's
None
an
of that.
ad,
Yep.
right?
And now it's
Um,
none of those things. Exactly.
so it's just like you can take something good, and a lot of good things, are taken by other investors and made bad, right? Because the new people come in and all they want is more money. Where it's like, well, that wasn't the original idea. The original idea was to connect with your friends, and
Yeah.
now it's how can we make money from connecting you with your friends, right?
Yeah. It's all
So I'm
so
sure we'll see how it goes. But
yeah, the long term thing I'm concerned about. So we've still got some people hanging on. If you guys have any questions, if were you at directions, were you not there going next year? Heard the buzz. Again, I'm curious of the people here if you actually went or didn't go. But we'll probably stop the recorded version of the session now. So feel free if you want to fire anything in. Ben, thanks a million for hopping
yeah,
on this. It's always interesting
absolutely.
talking to your perspective. Um, I always look forward to it. And now I'm feeling bummed that I'm not going to Dynamics Con out in Denver. So maybe
There's
it's
still
time to hop
time.
up. I
You can
know.
still you can still come over, man. They're still, yeah, I'm sure they're still selling tickets.
Yeah, I'm sure they're still selling tickets. So maybe we'll be out there. But yeah, greatly appreciate it. Always good to hear your insight. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one, whenever it is.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.